Hi, welcome to Chapter Book Storytime. I'm Ellen from EVPL Oakland Library, and on today's edition of the Variety Pack, I have a fun book to share with you. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. It's called 𝐵𝑒𝑛 𝑌𝑜𝑘𝑜𝑦𝑎𝑚𝑎 and the Cookie War. Actually, this is part of a series. This one's number 6. The series is called The Cookie Chronicles. It's by Matthew Swanson and Robbie Bear. And so the first one in the series is called 𝐵𝑒𝑛 𝑌𝑜ＫOHAMA and the Cookie of Doom. So apparently in each book, that Ben likes fortune cookies. And in each book he takes a fortune cookie, he reads it, and somehow it mysteriously applies to the situation that he's in, the problem that he's dealing with, and it helps him resolve the situation. And it's always done with a lot of fun and a lot of humor. I really like this series. It also reminds me of the Origami Yoda series by Tom Engelberger. So if you like that one, you might want to try this one. This is called 𝐵𝑒𝑛 𝑌𝑜KOHAMA and the Cookie War. As you can see, we've got two people here. This is Ben, and this is his best friend Janet. And it looks like there's an election going on. Let's find out what happens. As the story starts out, Ben and his best friend Janet are starting 4th grade. Chapter 1. 𝐵𝑒𝑛 𝑌𝑜KOHAMA was worried that his first day of 4th grade might also be his last. He had been waiting for this moment all summer long. A new school year meant a new desk, new pencils, a shiny new binder, a new teacher, new classmates, and a classroom 14 steps closer to the drinking fountain. It also should have meant someone new on student council. But Amy Lou Bonnerman had just announced she was running again, and no one was running against her. To make things worse, Ben's new teacher, Ms. Muddle, seemed lost and confused, like a small sheep stuck in a thicket of wolves. She had big, lonely eyes and looked young enough to be in high school. Instead of taking charge, she peered nervously down at her clipboard as if hoping it would give her a pep talk. Ben glanced over at his best friend Janet, who seemed equally worried. His dark thoughts grew even more grim. If Miss Muddle couldn't teach them 4th grade things, he'd never make it to 5th grade and would never get a job or a house or a robot karaoke machine. His future would be ruined before it had even begun. What were you saying about an election? Asked Ms. Muddle, blinking at Amy Lou like someone trying not to slip on a frozen puddle. Allow me to explain, said Amy Lou, grinning and flashing her shiny white teeth. Amy Lou was like a rash that always itched and never went away. The kind you had to live with. Student council is the most prestigious club in school. Amy Lou looked around the room to make sure everyone was listening. Each grade has one member who meets with Principal Hogan to make important decisions. Elections are on Friday. And your name is? Ms. Muzzle trailed off as her eyes scanned the roll sheet in her hand. Amy Lou Bonnerman, of course. Thank you, Amy Lou. Ms. Muddle did her best to smile. Can everyone please? I'm not done, said Amy Lou, like an eager flame that jumps from one log to the next. The 4th grade class council members chooses the theme for the fall carnival. This year's theme will be ponies. Ben's heart groaned. The carnival themes were always so boring. The last few years had been butterflies, kittens, and envelopes. Envelopes! A pony theme was more of the same. Dixie and Dally will give rides to anyone who votes for me. Most of the class went, ooh. Janet rolled her eyes. Amy Lou had 2 miniature ponies named Dixie and Dally. Ben knew because she talked about them constantly. Oh, pony theme sounds very nice, said Ms. Muddle. I look forward to hearing the other ideas. That won't be necessary, said Amy Lou with eyes that didn't blink. I always win. Don't I, Kyle? She always does, said Kyle, who was usually rude, but today just seemed defeated. Amy Lou had posters. She handed out lollipops. She even had a slogan that she used every year. Amy Lou for you. Ben liked the rhyme, but the slogan wasn't true. She made big promises, but she never kept them. Her slogan should have been Amy Lou for Amy Lou, which also rhymed, sort of. She had a group of friends who Ben and Janet called the Smirks because all they did was orbit Amy Lou like asteroids, gloating whenever she acted superior, which was pretty much always. I'm the voice of the people, declared Amy Lou, as if anyone knew what that meant. Oh, said Miss Muddle, gazing at Amy Lou as if she were a mystical, pony-powered moon witch. You're so confident. Miss Muddle seemed jealous. Why wouldn't I be? Asked Amy Lou, her eyes scanning the room like a spotlight searching for a missing criminal. I'm a natural leader. I comb my hair regularly, and I don't bounce to school on a stick. The class let out a gasp. Janet had bounced herself to school on a pogo stick. Everyone noticed because it was so noisy. Janet turned pink and scowled. The Smirks rose in their chairs, their necks stretched toward her like cobras. Ben was excited for what was going to happen next. Janet was the master of the snappy comeback. She was smart and fierce and didn't put up with nonsense from anyone. But instead of delivering the perfect razor-sharp reply, Janet wilted like a thirsty daffodil. The Smirks turned to gloats. Amy Lou sighed with delight. Ben was stunned. It was like Janet had run out of gas or gotten unplugged. I think pogo sticks are weird, said Amy Lou, enjoying the moment immensely. Everyone thinks so. The Smirks nodded aggressively, and no one rose to Janet's defense. Not even Ben. He didn't know why. Janet's head sank farther, like a giraffe that had lost half its neck bones. Ben looked pleadingly at Ms. Muddle, but she just nodded uncomfortably, as if the students were pieces of a puzzle that she couldn't fit together. Eventually, she started handing out textbooks and learning everyone's name, but all Ben heard was the rumble of gathering doom. Fourth grade was already a rickety school bus with bent axles and rusty hubcaps, and Ms. Muddle clearly wasn't ready to be a driver. It was only a matter of time before all the wheels popped off. Chapter 2. The rest of the school day passed in a furious blur. Ben figured out his schedule and heard about everyone's summer vacation. His classmates had changed in unexpected ways. Dolores was taller, Amanda was meaner, and Doug had a tiny gold earring. There was a pretty new girl named Marley who made Ben feel wobbly inside. While Ben ate lunch with Walter and Darby, Janet chewed her sandwich in smoldering silence. Amy Lou Bonnerman flitted from table to table, shaking hands and smiling a little too sweetly. After school, Janet was steaming like a basket of blue crabs. She marched along, pogo stick in hand. I don't like that Amy Lou and her pack of smirking Smirkletons. She's the voice of the people, said Ben, still not knowing what that meant. Which people? Janet demanded. Not this one, she continued, pointing to herself. This person wants longer recess, chocolate milk for lunch, and a lock on the haunted mop closet. Are those things even possible? Asked Ben. It was as if Janet was describing a mythical planet where puppies never grew up. Of course they are, Janet insisted. Someone just needs to demand them. Whoa, that sounds good, said Ben. But who? Ben had an idea, but he wanted Janet to figure it out for herself. Someone who can stand up to Amy Lou. Someone who won't put up with her nonsense. Right, said Ben. Janet was getting warmer. But who could that be? Janet stopped. Her eyes grew lively. You, she said decisively. Me? Janet had leaped to the wrong conclusion. You, Ben. If you ran for student council, you'd definitely win. You just need a theme and a slogan and a platform. What's a platform? Your big ideas for a better tomorrow. The things you'd change if you were in charge. Oh, Ben didn't like where this conversation was headed. He didn't have a single big idea. He wasn't the student council type. Janet, on the other hand. I think you should run, Ben countered. I think you could win. You're tough and super smart. Well, these things are true, said Janet, deep in thought. You're fierce, Ben reminded her. That could be your slogan. Janet's excited eyebrows drooped into sad ones. She got smaller. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you when Amy Lou made fun of your pogo stick, said Ben. He'd been waiting for the right moment to say it. And my hair. Also that, said Ben, feeling worse. That's okay, said Janet quietly. I didn't stand up for me either. And that was the bigger mystery. Why didn't you? I don't know. I wanted to, but what happened? I said I don't know, Janet insisted, carefully studying the curve of a thumbnail. Ben sensed that maybe she did know, but didn't want to say, or didn't know how. When they got to the corner with the yellow bush, Janet turned left, and Ben went straight. They walked home in silence on paths that were perfectly perpendicular. Chapter 3. That night, Ben's Aunt Nora came for dinner. That was good for 2 reasons. First, she often said things that made Ben's dad blush, which was fun to watch. Second, she'd recently started working at the Chinese restaurant and usually brought home noodles. Ben's parents were setting the table. Nora was fiddling with her phone. OMG, they're so cute. She was watching a video of ponies wearing sweaters. It reminded Ben of Amy Lou, which made him grumpy. He frowned at his empty plate, wishing it were full. What's wrong, Benny? Asked Nora without looking up. Want some lo mein? Asking Ben if he wanted lo mein was like asking a skunk if it needed some deodorant. Ben loved lo mein. It made everything better. Tell me, said Nora, piling noodles onto a plate, what's got your goat? Ben knew Nora wasn't talking about an actual goat. Oh, dumb Amy Lou Bonnerman, said Ben, too glum to even eat his noodles. She's going to win the student council election. Again. No, sir, said Ben's dad, who had a rule against calling people dumb. Sorry, said Ben. It was the wrong word anyway. Amy Lou was actually pretty smart. That was part of the problem. Tell me more, Benny. Now Nora was watching a video of a penguin in a clown wig. How can I help? Oh, you can't, Ben felt hopeless. Amy Lou's unstoppable. She wins every year because she hands out candy and makes a bunch of promises she can't keep. Check and check, said Nora, nodding. Go on. She thinks she's so great because she has 2 ponies. 2? Nora was impressed. I know, said Ben. She's stuck up and bossy, but no one ever runs against her. I told Janet to run, but she won't. The nerve, said Nora. If only there were something you could do about it. I know, said Ben. Janet's so stubborn. It's frustrating. Ben took out his frustration on the lo mein, which didn't put up much of a fight. Then Ben spied the pile of fortune cookies in the middle of the table. He saw the one he wanted and reached out to take it, but Nora's hand got there first. That's mine, Ben complained. I don't think so, said Nora, holding the cookie up to her ear and giving it a shake. I'm pretty sure this one's for me. Okay, said Ben, who wasn't convinced. The cookie in Nora's hand had felt like his, but instead he took a different cookie and broke it in 2 and pulled out the tiny strip of paper inside. He read his fortune to Nora. Actions speak louder than words. Ben was confused. Actions were something you did with your hands or your feet. Only mouths could speak. And talking dolls. And parrots owned by pirates. This fortune makes no sense, said Ben, now completely convinced Nora had taken his rightful cookie. I think it's just what you needed to hear, said Ben's mom. You sure have a lot of words to say about this Amy Lou character. Ben thought about it. Maybe the fortune was right. You couldn't just shout at a faucet to make water come out. You had to twist the knob. So the fortune is saying Janet should run for student council? Well, Janet said she didn't want to, said Ben's dad with a worrisome smile. The fortune is talking to you. Fortunes can't talk, Ben insisted. Nora held the cookie next to her mouth. Do something, Benny, she said in a ghostly voice that made Ben chuckle. Take action. Run for student council. I like that idea, said Ben's dad, who was constantly suggesting Ben get involved in more clubs. Me too, said Ben's mom. Maybe you'll make some new friends. But Ben didn't know what to say. Trying new things was something other people did. He liked playing baseball and piano and riding his scooter and spending time with Janet. That was enough. Oh, but I don't have a carnival theme, he pointed out, hoping it would end the discussion. What are you thinking right now? Asked Nora, looking at Ben like a philosopher looks at the meaning of life. You're thinking about my fortune cookie, aren't you? Ben nodded. How did Nora always know? What if cookies were the carnival theme? Ben's dad suggested. Wouldn't that be fun? I love it, Ben was excited. A cookie theme was way better than envelopes. But I still need a platform. What do you want to change at school? Asked Nora. Ben couldn't think of a single thing, but then he remembered. Janet had already done the thinking for him. Recess is too short. It's hard to fit in a full game of kickball. Okay, what else? Oh, I'm tired of drinking regular milk at lunch. Go on. There's no lock on the door to the haunted mop closet. Nora lowered her eyebrows. The mop closet is haunted? Ben nodded solemnly. We're worried the ghosts will get out. I see, said Nora, leaning back and looking wise. Well, how would you fix those things? Ben's brain worked so hard it got hot. By making recess 5 minutes longer? Good, and by serving chocolate milk, too. Okay, what else? By getting a new door for the haunted mop closet. You are the voice of the people, Nora exclaimed. Ben was amazed. He knew how to fix things. Tomorrow could be a better day. You've convinced me, said Ben's dad. You have my vote, said his mom with a smile. Ben's dog, Dumbles, woke briefly and issued a spirited woof. Excuse me, but I have to go, said Ben, who was suddenly in a poster-making mood. Wait, said Nora, tossing him her cookie. We have to open mine. Fine, Ben muttered, opening Nora's cookie and pulling out the fortune, which still really felt like his. Read it, Nora demanded. Ben did. All's fair in love and war. Oh, wise words, his dad said, nodding. What does it mean? Asked Ben. It's what I say to every guy I match with on Date Hub. Ben didn't know what that meant either, but it made his dad blush, which made Nora grin. Taking his fortune to heart, actions speak louder than words, Ben goes up to his room and gets to work. He comes up with a poster and a slogan and handouts and little gifts to give the voters so that they remember him on Election Day. He works so hard until he falls asleep at his desk. The next morning, on the way to school, he runs into Janet, and she has news. Chapter 5. The next morning, Ben put on his cleanest pants and his smoothest shirt. He grabbed his poster and his cards. He ate breakfast and even remembered to clear his plate. He scooted to the corner with the yellow bush and waited for the telltale ka-ching-a-boing of Janet's pogo stick. He didn't have to wait long. Janet ka-ching-a-boinged around the corner and continued to ka-ching-a-boing while shouting about something. But Ben couldn't hear what it was over the endless ka-ching-a-boingery. What? He shouted back. He was impatient to show her his poster. Janet hopped off the pogo stick and sweet silence resumed. That's when Ben noticed the long cardboard tube sticking out of her backpack. "What's that?" "Part of my exciting news," said Janet, beaming. "I've got news too," Ben replied, knowing that no matter what Janet's tube contained, it couldn't be as amazing as Cookie Carnival. They stood there blinking at each other, both waiting to go first, but knowing it was politer to go second. "Heads or tails," said Janet, pulling a penny from her pocket. It was how they sometimes worked things out. "I'm running for student council," Ben blurted, certain the news would make Janet happy. But Janet's face didn't seem to understand how happy she was. Instead, it grew grumpy and befuddled. "No, you're not," said Janet, as if trying to solve a complicated math problem. "I am. You said you weren't running, so you're not." "You said you weren't running, so I am," Ben insisted. "Someone has to stand up to Amy Lou. That's what you said, and that person is me." "That person is I," said Janet, who knew all the grammar rules better than Ben and was sometimes braggy about them. Ben felt mad. "Yesterday you said I should run." "Oh, that was yesterday. The sun set and rose again, Ben." Ben realized Janet lacked the most important information. "But actions speak louder than words," he explained, pulling out his fortune and showing it to her. "I'm going to stop talking about Amy Lou and beat her by actually doing things." Instead of apologizing, Janet shook her head grouchily. "No, you don't understand. Yesterday I got this, which means I'm the one who can beat Amy Lou." Janet showed Ben a square piece of paper that said, "When there's a will, there's a way." "Where'd you get that?" "My mom's daily winspiration calendar. It's incredibly wise, don't you think?" Ben's curiosity got the better of his indignation. "What does that mean?" "It means Amy Lou Bonnerman better get out of my way." The gleam in Janet's eye was more like a blowtorch. "And you'd better too, Ben Yokoyama. This election is important to me." Ben could tell Janet meant it. On a different day, he would have backed down. If the goal was finding someone to beat Amy Lou, Janet could do it. She'd be great. But for the first time in a long time, Ben felt ready to try something new. Getting started had been hard, and he didn't want to give up already. "But I made a poster," he insisted. "So did I. And I have a slogan." "Me too. What's yours?" "It's..." Ben stopped himself. Usually the first thing he wanted to do was share good news with Janet, but now she was his competition. "What's yours?" "I'd rather not say," said Janet. "Well, and either wouldn't I," said Ben, sensing something had gotten grummangled. They stood there for a minute, not knowing whether to apologize or shout. Instead, they did neither. Janet climbed onto her pogo stick and ka-chinga-boinged to the other side of the street, then down the sidewalk toward the school, which was on Ben's side of the street. It made no sense to cross unless you really wanted to be on the other side. The truth was sad and painfully clear. Janet really wanted to be on the other side. Ben obeys the fortune cookie and takes action. Just yesterday, Janet was his candidate, but now he wants to win. And if that means he has to beat Janet and Amy, he'll do it. I wonder how this is going to affect their friendship. When other kids get involved and start taking sides, that's when Ben remembers the second fortune, the one that was first his, that Nora took. All is fair in love and war and student council campaigns. To find out what happens, read Ben Yokoyama and the Cookie War by Matthew Swanson and Robbie Bear. This book has a lot of great illustrations all throughout the book mixed in with the text. I think you'll enjoy it. This has been Chapter Book Storytime. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.